we're here with hat store co-owner, right, Tony Leal, and you have a pretty amazing history. You were Texas Rangers. You were the youngest ever Texas Ranger. Is that right?
I was.
No.
Well, if you go back to when the Rangers started, most of them were in their 20s.
Okay.
Some in their teens. So it's a long history that we don't. Like other police departments that started at a certain time, we go back to before Texas was a state. So if you look back at our total history, which started in 1823, then there was a lot of young men that served during those times. But I was, at the time that I became a Ranger, I was the youngest Ranger in the service. And that's another thing about the Rangers. We call it the service. They're broken up into companies because it started more as a military quasi-police force and then evolved into a police force as Texas grew. They're still broke up into companies. They still have company commanders. I was the youngest in the service at the time that I started, and then I was able to become a captain and company commander and the chief. And at the time that I became chief, I was the youngest chief.
Youngest chief.
They had, yeah.
And you were also the first Hispanic chief.
Correct.
Quite a long and really storied history there. But you're kind of instrumental in bringing about this hat, which is the American Hat Company Bicentennial hat for the Texas Rangers.
Yes, sir. So I had been wearing, I can't remember when I didn't wear an American hat. When I started, well, I'll even go before I started in the highway patrol because that's where I came from. I had my father, who's also Tony, Antonio, and my uncle Raul were hat wearers, and my dad worked for the Texas Department of Corrections, now called TDC. We called it back then. Now it's the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So when he got out of the Marine Corps, he went to work for them, and all he knew how to do was be a Marine and cowboy. So he was on horseback back in the day out in Sugar Land, and so we would come to the hat store to get their spring hats. And occasionally a winter hat. Those last longer than the spring hat.
Quite a bit longer.
But when you're out working, that one summer hat you have, or back then that people used, you get around Easter, and by the end of the year, it was pretty worn out. So they would come here to get their hats and get their old hats fixed up. So I had been coming here since then, and my first hat that I got for myself was bought here at the hat store back in the early 80s, and it was American hat. Once I became a trooper, we would get the most god-awful hats issued to us, and they would come in a box, flat-brimmed, in what we would call an alpine or cattleman crease, but didn't have any shape to it. Back then, we wore the 3-inch brim, kind of reminiscent of a open road type hat. It was that type of look, and I would bring it into the hat store for Gary Cohen, who was the owner, to shape. I would do the same thing with my felt hats. And then once I became a Ranger and needed a real hat and a nice hat, I learned that most of the Rangers bought American hats. American Hat back then was local to the Houston area. They were out in Porter. And we would actually either get them here at the hat store or go by the place in Porter. And the family would just, shape our hats, help us pick our hats. So I just have a long history with American. So once we started to look at celebrating the 200th anniversary of the Rangers, we really wanted to, which was last year in 2023, we wanted to get a hat that represented that heritage and that would be a hat that the Rangers would wear. The hat that you're wearing is a little bit on the dark side. When I became a Ranger, that's a pecan. When I became a Ranger, we would not have been able to wear this hat. We had very strict rules in the Rangers, which they still have.
That was my next question on the rules, so we'll get to that maybe,
Yeah, so there's a lot of guidelines. We get questions all the time on social media about, dress and how you dress. And for me, that was all established in me and taught to me by being a trooper. Very, very big on uniform and how you look and how you're supposed to wear your shirt, your slacks, your boots, your hat, all of that.
Sure.
And it was the same way in the Rangers, very, very strict on how a hat should look. So I went with 3 colors. When we started looking at these, we went with the silver sand, which is a really light silvery color,
Yeah.
right? At one time it was called crystal, I think, called a silver sand now. And then the very traditional silver belly. So the crystal or the silver sand, the silver belly, and the pecan. Rangers now wear this color.
Okay.
But back when I started in 1994, these were the two colors that you could choose from. Traditionally, all Rangers had a silver belly, and that was their go-to work hat, everyday hat. I used to call it this hat, the captain's hat, and it's what I'm wearing now. And it's a lighter color. It can tend to pick up a stain or something easier than the silver belly, and so that's why this was the everyday hat for a working ranger, and this was the show me hat when you're a captain and sitting behind a desk most of the time, or in court, or
Sure.
testifying in places, and it was more of the dress color that we wore.
So is there a guideline for brim length and shape?
Yeah, so we're going to talk now and when I started.
Okay.
So when I started, even in our manual, it said that the ranger's hat would be worn in a traditional, what they called back then, because it was a different state. And I tell people this all the time, that it was called a business Western shape, like an alpine or cattleman.
Right.
And an alpine and a cattleman are pretty much the same crown, right?
Yes.
And the brim on a hat, we couldn't wear back then a 4 1/4 inch brim or a 4-inch brim. The brim size was 3.5.
Okay.
Now,
That was pretty standard back
that was
then.
pretty standard, especially in law enforcement, because they wanted it to look like a professional hat, And again, it's all about your body and what you look good in, right? So a lot of the Rangers would still, nobody was going around with a ruler measuring their hats, So especially, guys that were taller, 6 foot and above, they wanted to wear a 4-inch hat, and most of them did, because you have a lot of autonomy in the Rangers, and you don't see anybody you work for weeks to months at a time.
I can imagine.
You're your own boss. So if you're an Alpine and your captain is in Midland, you're not going to see him. So you may have, back even then, they may have been wearing a darker hat, And people ask me, well, why did y'all go to these light hats? And you hear it all the time. You see it in the news and Texas Monthly and an article, and good guys wear white hats, right?
That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, people think that the Rangers used to wear black hats and dark hats and brown hats and all colors of hats. What made what we know now as good guy wear white hats was movies and television.
Sure.
Because movies and television were in black and white, right? So they would put a light color hat on our heroes like Gene Autry, Roy Rogers, all those people. You're not going to see them in a black hat.
Right.
And they would put black hats on whoever the bad guy was, and that's where that came from. So it doesn't come from real history back in the 150 years ago. If you look at the pictures of Rangers 150 years ago, 200 years, many of them were wearing dark hats. Frank Hamer, if you look at the pictures of him, the guy that chased Bonnie and Clyde down, most of his hats are black.
Yeah.
So that's more of a newer thing to say about it. Good guys wear white hats.
Yeah.
So
it's always the same though.
Right.
Hollywood kind of dictates. That's
exactly. But because of that, you could not wear, and still can't, wear a black, dark, brown, chocolate hat in the Ranger Division. It's just a policy. It's about uniformity, and believe it or not, it's also about discipline. Because if you don't have rules, if you don't have those things in any type of military or paramilitary organization, what's next and what comes after that? So it's good to have those rules.
Absolutely.
And it's good to have structure. If you have loops, you wear a belt. If you have a shirt tail, you tuck it in.
Tuck it in.
If you introduce yourself to a woman, you take your hat off. You take your hat off when you're eating at a table or testifying in court, things like that.
So, and that's a good point. The hat store has some interesting TikToks, and you talk on the TikTok about dress and how to wear a belt and quite a few of these things we're talking about today. So if you want to check those out, go check out the hat store on TikTok and Instagram. You can see all of your little short videos, and they're pretty interesting.
Thank you.
Real quick though, I want to talk about when you designed this hat. You did a straw, you did the silver belly, this silver sand, and the pecan,
yeah.
And you did them in different X factors. What are we looking at?
So we did the 40X, we did the 200X, and we did the premium hats in straw. One vented, one not vented. To me, even in a straw hat, it's hot, but a non-vented hat is a dressier hat. So that's
right.
If it was in July or August and I was going to court, I would be wearing a non-vented hat. It's just a closer to looking like a felt, and it's just a fancier hat. So we went with the 40X and 200X as well. Most Rangers, you're going to have more than one hat. You're going to have your throwdown hat that you go to a murder scene in, or that you're working in, and that's your everyday hat. That's the hat you hit with a sponge or a brush and try to get it clean again. And then you've got the one that you keep in a case, for the days that you're going to go to court, or you're going to go before the Senate, or you're going to go to a special event or church. I mean, I wear a hat every day. I've always worn a hat, always. And so, if I was in my backyard, working a Colt or something, I'm not going to have a 200X hat on. But I had one. So we made them in both of those because the hats were they were sold to the public, right? But they were for the Rangers. So almost every Ranger came in and bought or was able to buy one of these hats. And we did the buckle on the 40 and the 200X with the traditional Ranger badge in it, and the 200th anniversary emblem on it. Mm-hmm. And then we did that in the 40X as well.
And we'll take some close-ups of these and roll those in here so you can see them.
Okay.
And it's really a cool buckle. We've had a lot of questions about these. The only place you can get them is right here at the hat store in Houston, Texas.
That's correct. Yeah.
So, if you've, I created a TikTok. I was here in December, and we did a little TikTok, and I posted some video of the Ranger Bicentennial hat, mm-hmm. and it was quite well received because when they announced this, it was kind of a press release, and then there was no more about it. Right. So we had questions, people asking the group, and we've reached out to American, and they said, you can get it at the hat store. So.
Yeah, and part of that was because it wasn't something we were doing as a revenue stream for the hat store. It was something to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Texas Rangers. And I have a history.
Sure,
with that.
Absolutely.
And my partner, Russell Molina, was the chairman of the Bicentennial Committee for that. So we wanted to get something sanctioned, something that meant something about this hat, right? So, he went to the Public Safety Commission, and which oversees the Texas Department of Public Safety, which is the department that the Rangers work with. And there had been a long-standing, and I'm not going to get technical because I don't know what the legal verbiage is, so I don't want to get legal
Sure.
about this. But the Public Safety Commission had one time had authorized the Texas Ranger Museum in Waco to be the overseer of official items. So they would bless those items and say, this is an official item that can represent the Rangers. So when we were coming up on the celebration years ago, you start these things 4 or 5 years before it really gets to that year that you're going to. Yeah. So he had gone and had that updated and made the case that this new entity, of which I became a board member, and that he was the chairman of Texas Ranger 2023, a nonprofit that would represent the Rangers and make sure that the things that were made were approved by the Rangers under that, was able to get a resolution to that effect. And so that's why they were only sold here, and that's why they weren't marketed to the masses. It was more, this was for the Rangers, of which I was lucky enough and honored enough to be a member of.
Well, it's very interesting and it's very cool. We have a lot of law enforcement, even outside of Texas, who are interested in this hat, and so this is where you get it. And we really appreciate you sharing all of this information with us.
Yeah.
It's great. And thanks for allowing us to come in and talk to you guys today.
Yeah, nice meeting you.
It was nice meeting you too. Thank you. Hey everybody, we're here at the historic hat store in Houston, Texas, and Blaine is going to shape up a hat for me. What do we have today?
So we've got an American 1011. We've got a 4.5-inch brim. From which I understand we're wanting to do a Fort Worth crease with a shovel front brim, and we're going to do it up for you today. We're going to do it pretty good.
Yes, sir. So the 1011 is the most popular American straw hat and has been for a very long time. It's really, it's kind of a work hat. It's not a really spectacular design. There's not a lot of, there's just not a lot to it, but it's really classic and it's a really cool hat. So I thought with this hat, it would probably really need something different. And so we're going to go a little old school with it. We're going to do a Fort Worth crease, which is a mule kick. We're going to do a mule kick front and back. It's kind of a standard cattleman, but you add those aspects to it. So I love 4.5-inch brim. It's a little unwieldy sometimes. Yeah. Some of my more dress hats are 4.25.
For sure.
But my standard brim we're going to do with this, but we're going to tweak it just a little bit. So it's going to have this brim. We're going to round the corners on this one. Give it that punchy old school look.
It's going to look pretty rank.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right, man. So I saw you on TikTok.
Yes, sir.
You're all over TikTok for the hat store, and you got your own personal TikTok. What's your TikTok?
So on social media, I have a TikTok. It's called BV Hatworks, and I also have an Instagram, and that's kind of one of the ways I got started in doing this. Started filming on social media when I was up at Huntsville. I went to Sam Houston State, and I was working at Cavender's on the side, making a little money, and I decided to start filming Instagram and TikTok and posting little bits here and there. And I'm not one of the big dogs and that sort of stuff. I'm very green with it, but it's kind of one of the ways I got my start in this.
Okay. Well, we'll put the links to your social media as well as those of the hat store in the description below, and we'll probably link them here in the video.
Sure.
So how long have you been shaping hats? How did you get started? Tell me that.
So I've been shaping hats in total. I'm one of the young guys, no question about it. Got a lot to learn, but in this industry, if you're not learning something new every day, you're doing something wrong. I've been shaping for 4 years here. I've been at the store since last February, so I'm relatively new to the store as well. But I came from a rodeo family. We grew up, we raised buck and bulls out in Dayton, Texas. And my dad, we roped a little bit as well. So, the Western lifestyle, the hats, the boots, the whole 9 yards, that's always something that's I've been very involved in, and, just had a passion for it. And this is a great way to keep going with that lifestyle. This is a dying art, and, getting to be one of the guys that gets to continue on something like this is very special.
That's really cool, man. Let's get started.
Sure.
What do you want to do first?
All right, so what we're going to mark your center of your face.
All right.
Everyone's head's different. The hat may not fit the same on everybody, so the closer we can get it to the center of your face, the better the hat's going to look at the end of the day. So I'm just going to take this little China marker and put one little dot right there, and that's all we need. And so then I usually go up, give myself a reference here as well. The good thing about these little grease pencils we use is take a little white eraser, comes right off like it was never there. But, it's important. Not everybody's head and face is to the oval of the hat, and that can make a hat look crooked on people at times. And, you always want to shape the hat to the person. So
that's right. And so I have an extra long oval head, and this is a long oval hat. It's still more round than I need. So I find that a cattleman works better for me.
100%.
Gets me that longer oval.
That cattleman, and especially when you put some dip to the brim, it naturally elongates that hat just a little bit and gives you that relief front and back.
I like a lot of dip, and I like the bowl shape in the sides.
Yes, sir.
And so, yeah.
All right, let's get busy.
Sounds good. Now this hat is a little different than what you're used to. This hat did come from American Hat Company. They provided it for this video, and it's a little different than what you guys are used to.
Yes,
so
sir.
You use an R wire here at the hat store.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So we use the heavy wire here at the store. You know, it's got its advantages. It's got its disadvantages. You know, it's a little bit of a harder hat to get a start on using that heavy wire, just because of what I just said. You know, it's a heavy wire, so it's naturally going to be a little bit harder to get a set to it. But at the end of the day, you know, the hat, it from what we've seen, it tends to hold up to a lot more with that heavy wire. You know, the hat can take a lot more of a beating, and it not fall out of shape. You know, these lighter wires, you know, they're a little easier to bend, so a lot of people like that because it's just an easier, quicker thing to shape. But, you know, sometimes that extra little bit of effort and time, it pays off in the end for sure.
And so we're talking about the brim wire that goes all the way around the brim in a straw. And this kind of gives you your structure of your brim. The hat store uses a heavier wire for the more rugged cowboys who are out here getting hats, and they want them to last and not have to have them reshaped. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So these guys, you know, this store, you know, we've been around for a while, and a lot of our customer and clientele is centered around older cowboys, and you know, and working cowboys, not even just older cowboys, but working cowboys. And you know, they're gonna put a beating on their hats. You know, that's just how it is in that lifestyle. And for them, having a heavy wire, it allows them to have the hat for a longer period of time. Because, you know, over time, you know, you're going to sweat a straw out. That's just how
Sure.
it is. And when you sweat that straw out, they tend to get a little bit soft on you. And having that heavy wire kind of compensates for the straw getting soft on you.
Oh, cool. It's interesting. I hadn't realized that there were, you know, quite a few people, including the hat store, who are ordering that heavy wire. I
Yes,
think more
sir.
out in West Texas, maybe they're doing some of that too.
Yes, sir, yeah. Yeah, there's not a lot of stores that have it. And, you know, when people see us shaping these hats, you know, especially when we go to set your brim, you know, set your wire in your brim to put some shape to it, you know, you got to kind of give it a little bit more of a roll to it at first to get it to offset nicely. And a lot of people, you know, they're going to look at you like, oh, man, you know, that's too much. I don't want that much to it. But at the end of the day, once you get it shaped, you know, they kind of then get to have a better understanding of why we did what we did.
So what is your favorite hat to shape? Is it going to be the straw or the felts?
Man, I think I'm more of a straw guy.
Really?
I love shaping straw hats. Just I couldn't tell you why. You know, it's just a little personal preference thing. But I just like, you know, to me it's very rewarding. So like a felt hat, for instance, like a black felt, it's going to hide your shadows. So sometimes a lot of the dimensions and angles, you know, are hidden by that darker color hat. And in a straw hat, it all shows. You know, you're going to see everything.
Yeah.
So to me, you know, it takes a little bit more of a finesse, but it's a more rewarding.
We were just talking about how a black hat kind of hides the dimension of the hat just last week. So I'm
Yes,
glad I'm not the only one who sees
Yeah,
that.
no, for sure. You know, because we'll have people come in and they'll have a hat, they'll have a silver belly and come in and get a black, or vice versa, have a black and get a silver belly. And we'll do the hats the exact same shape. You know, some people, you know, are specific enough that we'll measure it out, you know, height, the length of the dimple, everything. And they're still like, man, it just looks different. You know, you can show them on tape, hey, here it is. Everything is exact.
Right.
But because of the fact that you see those shadows, I mean, every hat throws a shadow, but it's not seen on every hat.
Right.
And that's where it really kind of makes a big difference there. So right now we've got your, you know, just your standard cattleman. You know, on the Fort Worth crease, you know, I probably don't take my dimples as long as you would on a normal cattleman, because we're going to throw that mule kick in the front and back. Mm-hmm. And I don't, you know, to me, having that nice probably inch gap right there between them is the cleanest look for it.
Well, you know, everybody shapes a hat different. So
Yeah.
you can ask for a cattleman at one place, and it's going to be completely different.
Oh, yes,
You
sir.
know, the way that somebody's going to make those side dents, the center crease even can be different.
100%. You know, that's one of the beauties of beautiful things about hat shaping, is that it's all very unique and personal. You know, just like an artist, you know, when they're painting, you know, they're going to put a little signature somewhere in that. And as a hat shaper, you do it too without noticing. Like, you know, you could look at mine or in one of our other hat shaper shapes, and it could be the same shape, but you're going to know right away, hey, this one's his, this one's his. You know, we kind of tell that with customers that come back in. It's like, hey, I want a hat shaped just like this one. It's like, okay, well, so-and-so shaped that one. You know, you kind of, you can tell with a hat shaper who's who.
Sure.
You can see their work. And being in the industry, you know, we just had Houston Rodeo finish up here, and walking through, you know, the halls of the NRG Center or through the stadium, you can even see, like, as a shaper, you know, you can be like looking at someone's hat and be like, oh yeah, so-and-so shaped their hat as they're just walking by you. So it's pretty cool, little stuff like that, especially once you've been in the industry for a little bit and, you know, get to know these other guys that are out here working and doing the same job you're doing. You really kind of begin to be able to see those sort of things.
So, do you go to a lot of events like that?
So, here at the hat store, you know, we don't have a booth at Houston. You know, NRG Center's 10 minutes down the road from here, and we've got a very good not fan base, but customer base here, to where, you know, we haven't felt the pull to go have a booth set up there because we're just so close in proximity. But we do travel. Actually, starting on Sunday, me and our manager, we're going to be traveling to Arkansas and Georgia for their FFA conventions, and we're there a couple days each. We come back from there, get a few days of rest, and then we go head up to Oklahoma as well, and then we do Texas FFA, and we do other like private events where companies will want us to come out, and, you know, they may have like a little get together, a retreat, and want hats done, and they'll, you know, we go out there and shape and travel and do stuff like that. A lot of that stuff usually happens for us during the summertime. You know, the summer, you know, is really kind of a downtime in the hat industry for the most part, you know. So we kind of try to make up that gap from leaving, you know, the busiest time of year is Rodeo Houston for us, and then you go straight into summer, and it's just kind of dead. So making up that ground, you know, really helps out a lot.
Cool.
So crown is going to be done.
It's pretty cool.
You know,
So this is the first hat I've had with mule kicks, the Fort Worth crease. You know, it's something different. I've always liked it. I think they're really cool. It's just not something I usually wear.
Yes,
but this,
sir.
You know, we'll give it a shot.
It's definitely unique. It's kind of got that old school look, but putting this rounded brim is going to kind of give it that, you know, ranchy new school flair. It's going to be a pretty cool little.
I think so.
Little throwback with a little modern twist.
I think so.
So, you know, and I was talking about, you know, setting the brim, you know, setting the wire, you know, and on these, you know, I don't have to do it near as much. You know, these are going to be very simple to do, given that it's not that heavy wire. So, you know, just that little bit that I just did right there is really already kind of got a good set to your wire, and it allows that hat, especially, you know, for someone that wants a lot of dip into a hat. You know, we have people that come in here that, you know, they want dip to their hat, but they don't want that wire set in the back end. You know, with a felt, sometimes you can get away with that a little easier, but, you know, just the pliability of a straw versus a felt's a lot different. So you kind of have to work with that wire at the end of the day to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, it's exactly right. You know, if you want a lot of dip in the front, you got to kind of realize that you're going to get that bowl in the back.
Yeah, there's not much on a straw. There's really not much of a way around it without putting breaks in the hat, you know, and that's something you don't want.
Yeah.
But no, it's going to look. We're about to do a pretty cool little look for you.
It's always interesting to see someone new shape a hat.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I was someone who didn't have a teacher necessarily in the hat shaping. Like I said, you know, my family, we did the rodeo road and all that sort of stuff, you know, starting off, but I never really had anyone ever show me how to shape hats. It's kind of one of them deals I was like, man, I could, if I, you know, get thrown off a horse, you know, my hat's going to take a beating. and I was like, I'm either going to be paying someone a lot of money to fix my hats, or I can try and teach myself and save myself a little money. And I, you know, started like everyone else, you know, a little tea kettle over the stove, you know, and figured out I had a little niche for it. And I was in college up there at Sam, you know, I'd been breaking a couple colts up there. And I learned I wasn't a bronc rider. You know, I'm going to get thrown off more times than I stay on. And my hats were taking a beating. And I was like, man, I could really do something with this. Figured out I was pretty decent at it. And applied there, got the job, and started doing the social media thing. And it took off. And, you know, when I graduated college, my original plan was going into law enforcement. I was going to be a cattle cop out in Fort Bend County, actually. And I was working at the Cavenders in Humble. That's the closest one to my home. And I got a message from the store like, hey, man, we're hiring, full time, would just be something you'd be interested in. And I was like, heck yeah, it's something I'm interested in, found something I got a niche for and a passion for. And, God always provides, it's kind of one of them deals, I had a path, but, I was always going to be open to, see what new things life brings you. And this job was definitely a huge blessing for sure.
So we saw some of your other work. You don't just do hat shaping, you do some embellishing too, and kind of distressing work.
Yes, sir, yeah. So, here we do the distressing on the hat. Some people want to have the worn look of a hat without actually wearing it. They just want to throw it on and have the look. They don't want to always put the time into getting it, and that's something that's becoming very popular right now, that whole Lainey Wilson stuff, those flat hats she wears that are all crazy looking. That's become very popular, and we see that, how often that's asked for. So that's something we've really started doing more here, to broaden our horizons, and it's taken off. It's very interesting the ways you can go around about getting some of that stuff done, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. The people love it, and it's definitely another unique option to have here.
We're going to take a look a little bit later. The hat store can make custom bands. They have custom sterling silver buckles. There's a whole lot to this store, but it's all hats. We'll talk to Dylan a little bit later about that. Man, that's looking good already.
So yeah, we're gonna give it a little dip to it. We're not gonna go. I don't want to go too narrow on you there in the center, especially since you're used to wearing a more squared off front.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring it to too much of a point. It really kind of throw you off. So we're gonna kind of go somewhere in the center, do a little happy medium. Never hurts.
Yeah, right. And I thought about that because it is old school to go that little point in the front, but it's just not me. So
yeah, and everybody's taste is different. You got plenty of people that want that, real narrow point, but that's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. That's another great thing about hats is, what I like, what you like, what I wear, what you wear is not going to be the same, and that's how it is with a lot of people. And that's, I think, what makes hat shaping so cool is, that nothing's ever going to be exactly the same. Whether it's the head of the person, the hat doesn't sit the same on one guy as it does another. You have similarities, but you never have, I don't think you ever run across, exactly the same situation every single time, because, the way the hat may have been made, could be a little bit different. There's just so many different variables in that regard, and I think that's what makes, one of the things for me at least, that makes hat shaping so fun and interesting is that there's always a new challenge to be had.
Well, I always say if a person isn't comfortable in the shape of the hat, they're not going to wear it.
No, not at all.
So it's good to stick to something you're used to and you're comfortable with. But there's always, room for change.
Oh, 100%. And you can, with a lot of customers, you can tell right away if they like the shape when they see it on them. If you're not getting a smile, something's up. It's one of them deals. They go to look in the mirror. We here at the store, we've got these 3-way mirrors here. That's a really big help in that regard to allow a customer to see the hat all the way around on them. And there's not many places that have these big 3-way mirrors that allow you to see that hat on you completely all the way around. And you send them to that mirror, and right away you're going to be able to tell they're either going to smile or they're not. And if they don't, it's like, all right, so you didn't smile, what we got to do to fix it, and it's those mirrors are definitely a huge help to what we do here.
It's always interesting when you get a hat and it's open and flat, you try to envision a shape that you want in it, but you really don't know until it kind of takes form. And this hat is looking killer.
Yeah, it's
I
going to
really
be
like it.
It's going to be kind of cool. You know, we're not going to go too high on the sides and, you know, make it look like you just came off of Dixon Creek or nothing. But,
Yeah.
you know, it's going to be a little bit laid down. You still, you know, straws, you know, you wear them in the summertime when it's hot. So, you know, you like to have a lot of shade. You know, that's another good thing about dip to the hat is it really shades your face. But on a shape like this, having that brim kind of lay out just a little bit instead of being so vertical on the sides, it allows you to have that sun coverage, especially here in Texas. You know, it gets so dadgum hot. You know, down here in Houston, we're pretty close to the Gulf, so, you know, we have to battle and deal with humidity along with the heat. And, you know, straws, you know, we tell a lot of people, you know, you see driving down the road, you see a hat sitting up in the dash of their truck, right? And as a shaper, you're like, you know, as a straw, you're like, my God, you know, that thing's going to be drawn up. You know, they come in, man, my hat fit real good yesterday, but they bring it back, well, it don't fit real good today. I'm like, well, okay, I was like, did you leave it in the dash and turn your truck off or whatever? Yeah, I left it in my truck for, you know, an hour in the dash. I'm like,
Hour's
that's all it takes. That's all it takes. You know, you wouldn't leave you don't leave nothing in the car. Your car gets hot and it's an oven pretty much.
That's right.
And it will cook that hat and shrink it, and it will never fit the same.
Well, you know, we're up in Fort Worth, and I like to wear a felt as long as I can because, you know, in Texas you don't have a really long felt season.
No. So yeah, now I'm doing here, you know, I'm just doing some little bitty, you know, picking from my end on the hat. You know, I want to make sure it's going to be exactly what it needs to be whenever we go to put it on your head. So I like to just, you know, kind of sit here and nitpick. You know, they always give me a hard time when I'm shaping. You know, my head's always bobbing back and forth and all that good stuff. But, you know, I like to be able to see the hat from as many ways around as I can. So I'll always be moving and turning the hat and looking at it to try and make sure I've got every angle of it looked over before I hand it to the customer. Because, you know, I want it to, as soon as you put it on your head, I want it to be as close to as the final product as it can be.
Well, that's a good sign in a shaper, though. You know, if they're taking the time and putting that effort into making sure your hat's good, you know, they care. They care about what they're doing. They care about the final product.
Oh, most definitely. And, you know, we see a lot of this. This has been happening a lot. You know, you see places that, you know, they don't really, not saying that they don't care, they may not know as much, and they put a hat on somebody that's, you know, almost 2 sizes too small, you know, and they bring the hat in, it's like, man, this hat doesn't fit me, you know, and that, you know, a lot of times that comes back on the shaper or whoever sold you the hat. You know, your job is to make sure that hat fits them and that it fits them, like, you know, it fits their build, it fits, you know, their makeup, their broad shoulders, but it's also got to fit their head as well.
Well, it's looking really good.
Yeah, so, and another thing about hats, you know, something you can always do is rock the hat back and forth. If it rocks back and forth, you know, usually that's going to be a pretty good indication that your hat's level. But the hat is done. You know, this is going to be pretty dang close to the finished product unless we see a little bit of touching up we need to do.
All right.
But that's your shovel front. It's not going to be too pointed, too dipped to where it just looks awkward on you. But you're going to get that sun coverage, and you're going to be able to, you know, with this shape, you know, you're going to be able to suck it down on your head pretty good.
It's definitely different, but I can definitely see myself wearing this, and this is kind of cool. Let's take a look at it. Yeah?
Okay. Pretty cool. It's definitely kind of got that old school flair with a little bit of a new school twist to it. Yeah, that's good.
All right.
Yeah, you got the coverage. It's all there.
I'm ready for summer. Well, I'm not really ready for summer because I don't want to give up the straws yet, or I'm sorry, the felt yet. Here in Houston, man, it's a lot more humid than it is up in Fort Worth.
Oh, 100%. I see one little thing. Let me just lay this side down just a hair. That's the other good thing about this lighter wire is that little itty bitty difference right there. And, you know, the heavier wires like we were talking about earlier, you know, I couldn't come over here and just do that little tweak, you know, have to steam it back up and really kind of get that wire to loosen up. But no, the hat looks really good. It fits you. It's straight on your face. It's a good looking lid.
Well, it feels good. It's definitely a lot cooler than the felt.
Oh, 100%. You know,
a lot
of guys, you know, a lot of your working cowboys also, you know, a lot of them tend to wear a felt year round just because of the beating they give a hat. Yeah. But, you know, a good straw hat, you know, that breeze is definitely nice as well.
Well, hey, thanks for taking the
Oh, yes,
time and
sir.
shaping up the hat for
My
me. I really
pleasure.
appreciate it. You did a great job. I think it looks
Pleasure.
really cool.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank
you
you
nailed
for
it.
having me. I appreciate it.
All
It was
right.
a pleasure.
Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's take a look at the rest of the store. So we're here with Dylan from the hat store, and you are the manager, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you guys just shaped a hat for me. It looks great.
Oh,
Really appreciate it. Thanks for allowing us to come in and
Yes,
talk
sir.
to you guys.
Blaine helped you out and shaped it for you and
Absolutely,
everything.
absolutely. He nailed it. It's exactly what I had envisioned, and it kind of turned out better than I.
Perfect. That's what we always want with the customers when they come in here and the experience that they get.
Tell me a little bit about the store, the history, what you guys do.
So Gary's grandfather founded American Hat Company in 1915. And then Gary, Cohen, he was the original owner of the store. And we've been in this location since 1981. So we've been doing hats, open crown. It's actually, the store hasn't been called the Hat Store. In 1981, he opened it as Gary's Hats, featuring American hats. We have long ties back to American Hat Co. And we love shaping their hats and just appreciate everything that they do.
One thing I thought was interesting is you guys make custom leather bands for
Yes.
hats, and it gets a real buckle.
Mm-hmm.
You actually have the ability to take if somebody has a felt hat with the buckle set on it, and they want to keep that buckle set, you can actually put that on a leather.
Oh yeah. So like for Mr. Tony, he was the chief of the Texas Rangers back in the 90s. So we actually did a genuine alligator band, and then you kind of incorporated that Texas Ranger 200-year Bicentennial buckle into that band, and it looks amazing on that straw hat that he has.
And so you have the ability to do alligator,
Yeah.
big bass.
Mm-hmm.
You can do
And we have
quite-
alligator, we have ostrich. We work with different companies, these other ones that we do. If you want anything kind of more specific, maybe like a hippo or something like that, we work with Virgil. He does good business over there, and he does business with NRS and Bigger. They do all his hat bands over there, and his hat bands are great too.
You have the ability to put, and you have some sterling silver buckle sets.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You have some pretty special buckle
Oh
sets
yeah,
too.
and we have ones if you want to put sapphires, rubies. I mean, we could pretty much do anything. We've done multiple hat bands. I mean, some people come in here, they want the nicest thing, and that's what we're able to do here.
And distressing, you do different
Mm-hmm.
bows and ribbons and just all kinds of stuff. And
Yeah.
you have a lady dedicated to
Oh yeah.
doing
So we
bows.
have Miss Teresa. She's great. She's been here for 20 plus years. She's actually worked with Gary too before. You should just be Mr. Vern, Gary, and Teresa here at the store back in the day. And Teresa's great. She does all the sewing, all the hat bands. Of course, these guys, they do the distressing on the hats as well. We could pretty much do anything that your mind is able to think about.
Well, I would love to have some of this, embellishment done. I'm just pretty simple,
Yeah,
I just
I am
stick with
too.
what it comes on it, and but there's so many cool things you guys
Mm-hmm.
do here. I would love to kind of
Oh yeah,
venture out into
and we
that.
can even match. If you have custom pair of alligator boots, we can pick out a leather and we get multiple pieces of them of different leathers and different skins and colors, and we can match those boots almost to a T.
I think that's something my wife would really enjoy. So we'll probably be back in the near future.
Perfect, that'll work.
So tell me about some of the brands you carry.
We carry American, Rodeo Bum. That's our private label brand. Atwood, Bigger, Hatco, which they make, Stetson and Resistol. And then we also carry, those other, like we carry City Sport caps. Those taxi driver caps, newspaper boy caps, we carry those too. And also dress hats. That's a big thing for us here. So we want to cater to, the whole market for Houston, for anybody that wears hats.
So do you do any online sales, phone orders?
Yeah, we do everything. Online sales, phone orders. Our inventory is, everything's online to where you can order it online. And then phone orders, we take phone orders Tuesday through Saturday, 10 to 5, 10 to 6.
Very interesting. So what is your website?
So it's, I can't even remember.
That's all right. We'll throw it up.
Thehatstore.com? Just the hat store? Okay, well, there you go.
Thehatstore.com. Now I lost my train of thought. It's all right.
I thought it had a TX in there for a second, but then I'm thinking of the Instagram.
That's your Instagram.
Yeah.
Take orders on Instagram too.
Yeah.
Very
Perfect.
interesting.
Yep. And we actually shipped one just to Australia. They ordered a 100X American 5-inch brim. We shaped it for them, and we ship international all the time.
So that's a great point. We have a lot of people asking, especially Australia, who does international shipping?
Oh, yeah.
And we have a list, and we didn't know the hat store.
Oh, yeah. No, we ship international all the time. We ship with Postal. They're great, and we've been shipping with them. Gary's been using them ever since he opened the store, and that's just the kind of, first-class service that we provide.
We've had a lot of questions about Rodeo Bum. Tell me a little bit more about that. So you said it's private label, and you're doing some that are some of the lower X Factor hats are private label, but then you're doing custom also.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how that's broken.
So, in the different qualities that we carry in the Rodeo Bum, we start at a 7X, then we go to a 10, and then to a 30, 60, and then the 100X. And then in the, our custom hats, we do 100X, 500, and 1000. And that, with the custom, you're able to choose the buckle set, what kind of color hat band, sweatband that you want in the hat. We can pretty much do anything, what initials, name, everything in the hat.
And you take a conformator?
Oh, yeah. So we have a conformer, a 3D printed one, and a 4 million. So we can actually conform the gentleman or the woman and make it, fit just like a glove.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have those, we're getting toothpicks and made right now. We sell tons of those toothpicks.
Take one off of Blaine's hat.
Yeah, those sell out. Well, between all of us, getting one, and we're actually getting our custom ones made that say THS, which is the hat store. And we use the CH Designs. She does ones for Milio. They're great. She send me pictures. They ship them. She does fantastic work.
I got a guy who did one for me for my Silver Belly, and I wish I would have wore it because it's really cool.
Oh yeah, and then even Clint, he does a bunch of stuff like that.
Does he? What's he charge for those?
I want to say like $340. I want to say if you want like a custom complete one.
That's not bad.
Blaine has one with his brand on it too. It has his, you can put your brand initials or whatever you want on it. There's actually, I have another guy. He actually his is made out of wire. He twists the wire, and he can do it out of. I think he even does sterling and gold and all that.
Wow.
He's actually the longest booth at the rodeo. He's been there for almost 60 years. It's like Wild West, I want to say. I'm trying to find this Clint Arms buckle set because this is like one of a kind that I have. I think it's on the other side because more expensive ones. It has actually a sapphire in the little tongue part. You don't see that.
Really?
Yes, sir. See it. Yeah, so we do our own. I can talk about it.
We do our Texas Ranger buckle too. Is that?
Yeah, and that.
So hand tooled. Belts, custom buckles.
Perfect.
What's your range in price on buckles?
So our buckles, we start with a 3-piece set. They kind of start at around $400, $500, and that's we use solid sterling silver, 14 karat gold, and we also can do 10 karat gold as well. But majority of our things are all sterling silver, 14 karat gold. And then we also inlay turquoise. Of course, there's different parts of colors, different parts of turquoise all around the the United States. So we can do whatever kind of color coral, that green kind of sage. And then we also have a couple buckle sets from other makers, silversmiths that they do all kinds of different things. Like this one's a hammered, so it has that kind of real tight texture on it. This one's like a fish one. There's tons of different ones that we can do.
Texas Rangers buckle?
Yeah. And then that one too, this was a 3-piece set. It has a Texas Ranger kind of logo on all 3 sets of those, and Bolin make those, and they're limited edition. I think we only have a couple left.
Cool. So what's the deal with the saddle? You don't sell saddles?
Yeah, so the saddle's not for sale. Unfortunately not. We've had some people try to buy it. With Rangers and stuff like that. Actually, I'm sure they spoke about it with Mr. Tony. They're trying to build a memorial at Waco for the Rangers that have fallen in service. And actually, this one comes with a donation of $100,000. So these saddles, if you have a saddle like this, you have to donate $100,000 to the Rangers.
That's pretty. Whew, that's
Oh,
a little
yeah.
steep.
And
for a
there's
saddle.
also like multiple things that get added to it. Of course, you get like I think it's like stay at hotels and stuff like that. And I mean, it's multiple things that you get. You make a $100,000 donation to the Rangers.
That's pretty fancy. That's a good looking saddle too.
Yeah, and then we also do belts as well. So we can do whatever kind of if you want hippo, alligator, all of our other things are hand tooled. We have hornback alligator. If you just want bison or bull hide and calf, they'll start around 95, and then the hornback alligator goes all the way up to about 600.
Okay. And I see you have hat cases too.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. We sell
brand
tons of
cases.
hat cases. We get our logo put on every single one. We do a bunch of different colors. We do teal, turquoise, red, black, of course tan, purple, navy. But on those two, if you buy a custom hat from us, it comes with a free hat can.
All right. What's your ability to shape? I know, being a premier hat store in the Houston area, you probably get pretty busy on the weekends.
Oh yeah.
What's your capability of shaping? How many hat shapers do you usually keep on staff?
So usually we have four full-time hat shapers here. Then we have 2 part-times that come help us on the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays. But full-time year-round, we keep about 4. And then of course, during the busiest seasons in December, and then we have Houston Rodeo here. It's the largest rodeo in the nation. Those we bring an extra 2 or 3 from different. We know a bunch of traveling shapers, and that's all they do. They just travel and shape hats.
Cool.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for having us in.
Oh yeah.
Thanks for shaping up my hat, and thanks for the history, man.
Oh yeah.
I really
for sure.
appreciate it.
Yeah, there's a lot of history here in the store, and especially ties back to American Hat Co.
Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. And if you're in the Houston area, stop by and check out the hat store. Thanks.
We couldn't leave the historic hat store without patching up this new American hat. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this, and hit that bell icon to be notified when we drop new videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.